Hey guys, welcome back. I'm top music attorney Miss Crystal, and today I'm giving you a lawyer reacts to Evanescence, and more specifically, it's an interview that lead singer Amy Lee did that was posted to Alternative Press on YouTube. And Amy gets into discussing a little bit about her deal with her record label, some problems that she ran into. And on a personal note, I definitely have been a fan of Evanescence and Amy Lee forever. And in fact, the first concert that I ever went to was an Evanescence concert. And setting that aside, my fans compare my voice, as far as being like an artist myself, to Amy Lee's voice, which is amazing because I think she's incredible. So for all those reasons, I'm really excited to be doing today's video. I'll be sure to link a recent Evanescence cover that I did down in the description below. So if you're ready, let's go. Hi guys, I'm top music attorney Miss Crystal. I'm an entertainment attorney, public speaker, and creator of the Top Music Attorney School for artists and record labels. I'm the owner of Dukes Up Records, and most importantly, I'm an independent artist. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on those bell notifications so you don't miss my weekly videos giving you my best tips on the music business, industry news updates, and teaching you how to stay legally protected.
Let's go. Turn on the radio in your car and hear your song, and it's really charting and it's really happening, and all of a sudden then we're going to award shows and stuff. It happened really fast in 2003, and not that it happened really fast, like we were nothing and then we were there, but that was fast.
And you know, you hear so many artists talk about becoming overnight successes and what that really means. And for the average artist, the overnight success takes about 10 years and sometimes even more than that to kind of launch and to have a song take off. Once you have a song that goes viral or a song that picks up enough traction, that's when it can really be a game changer for a musician. And so sometimes the word is just, you got to keep going. And remember that even if you've had songs that don't do quite as well, that it just takes one song to completely change the game, but you got to be ready. When those opportunities come and now you're getting calls because people want to have you on their shows, to interview you, to perform live, if you're not ready, then that's going to be the greatest moment of your life potentially squandered. And so obviously I think that we all know that Amy and the band did an amazing job, and it's all kind of history from this point on, but let's get back into the video.
Which is what you want for sure. But I was 21, 22. It was a lot to handle. It was an amazing thing to have. It was like our dream was coming true. But at the same time, it was a difficult time for a lot of reasons. There was definitely turmoil within the band. And my brother was sick at home and I was gone all the time. There was a lot for me during that first year. It was actually really difficult. And I learned how hard it can be to fake it. Like to put on a face because you really do care and you really are grateful and you really do want to be where you are, but you can't be completely honest about how you feel. And
especially for, she said, at this time, it's about 2003. It's very different with the social media age that we live in now, because I think that there's a desire to be more transparent and for artists to want to share with fans and connect with them. But, especially a decade, 2 decades ago, there was a lot more mystery still that was actively cultivated, and it was difficult to be able to access artists. And with the digital media age, man, it was a complete game changer. Now you can just, look at someone's Twitter and see what they ate for breakfast. And so in a way that's definitely changed the landscape for artists and given them an opportunity to be, I guess, authentic and to share the struggles that they're going through. But I definitely understand what she's talking about, just being in her 20s and, kind of having this newfound excitement and success, but dealing with things like personal relationships and the challenges that life just kind of brings you in general.
And, I was talking to journalists and people backstage at shows and radio stations all the time, like every day, and having to kind of go through the motions and act like everything was great. Like, please buy into this, believe in us, everything's great. But inside thinking like, I don't know, actually, it might all be falling apart. I was really against having any male vocal in our music. That was really hard. And it was an idea that came from the label, and it suddenly all became.
So the idea of having a male vocal in her music came from the label. And we've talked about this in other videos when it comes to the contract with the label and the fact that you are assigning not only ownership of your music to the label, but a lot of control and all final decision making when it comes to what music gets released. Now, Amy's going to talk about what happens when you kind of push back, right? And the risks that are involved with kind of standing your ground and saying, no, this is the kind of artist that I want to be. You're not going to force me to change. But understanding that when you partner up with a label, you have to really think of it as a business partnership with a business entity. And they think they know what's right. And maybe they do, right? So maybe in some instances, they can help you and elevate your career. That's why we sign with record labels. But they're going to be very strong in their opinions, and they're going to tell you what you need to do in order to be successful, whether you like it or not.
About Bring Me to Life, they decided that was the song. I actually didn't think that should be the first song. I wanted to be Going Under. Then it came up with this idea about
An epic
having
song, both of them.
something in there that would be familiar to listeners in order to get us on the radio. And I didn't really understand what that meant. I was really inspired by artists that were unique. Like, what's great about all the artists that I mentioned before, Nirvana and Soundgarden and Bjork, was that there was nothing else really like them. And that, to me, was the key ingredient and something that I believed and still believe that we have.
But when it comes to partnering up with the record label is not necessarily looking for, hey, let's try to be avant-garde. Let's try to be like Bjork. Let's try to do something that is so unique. No, they want something that's almost formulaic. They want something that is already proven to have worked, and then they can get an artist who can kind of repeat that. And so I bet, Amy kind of coming into this and be like, no, we want this to be a very unique kind of sound or look and to tailor it a certain way. It's not a big surprise if in return, the record label is saying, oh no, we're not going to do that. We're going to do this instead.
And in my head, the more you try to make it familiar, the more you're taking away from our true power. The original fight was that the label wanted us to hold auditions and bring somebody into the band full time to sing on most of the songs and make it a thing, try to be like the female Linkin Park. And I was like, I'll think about it for an hour, and then we called them back, and I was like, we can't do that. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, and having a record label approach a band and say the first thing we need to do is we need to lose the drummer. The first thing we need to do is replace the singer. That's really difficult for a lot of bands to digest, but it happens so frequently because the label comes in, offers a great opportunity, but says, we know better. We think that this person or this image or whatever needs to be adjusted. If we make this change, we can really take you to that next level. But then you're talking about a band that's already put in a lot of effort and time and money, and there's friendships, and you're a family. And so a lot of times bands will be very reluctant, very resistant to these kinds of changes. And obviously, to the extent we're saying, all right, we're going to add now a guy in who's going to sing most of the songs with you. That's not what their band was. And that's not something that she wanted to do. And she mentioned Linkin Park a minute ago, and my understanding of even Linkin Park's story is that when they first started, the band was Hybrid Theory, and it was this rock rap group. And I don't know if this was at the suggestion of a record label or kind of what the situation was, but they decided in order to be more commercial to bring in a singer. And that's how Chester Bennington ended up becoming not only a part of the group, but he became a main reason why that group really took off and had the success that it had.
It's just, I'd rather start over. That's just not who we are, and I don't want that. And then they took away our funding, and I moved back in with my parents. And that was hard. After all the buildup, we got signed. I quit school, moved to LA, and it's like, no, actually, we're coming home.
And that's being shelved. When we talk about an artist getting shelved, it means that the label's going to pull the funding, it's going to pull the effort for whatever the reason. Sometimes it's because the artist's last album flopped and the label just thinks that it's a loser kind of investment now. But in this case, it was because Amy was putting up this fight and saying, no, I don't want to bring in a guy and have him on the majority of my songs. That's not what we are. And so the label says, okay, we're taking away the check, we're taking away the money, we're taking away the people, go home. Man, that must have been a really tough pill to swallow at that time, to stay authentic to yourself, which is exactly what she did.
Yeah, we didn't get actually to do it. It was hard, but in my heart, it was broken, but I knew that it was better than the alternative. It wasn't totally selling my soul. That wasn't the point. And then a few weeks later, we got a call and they kind of like come around to a compromise and decided, hey, we have a cool movie placement thing with this Daredevil deal. And we pitched it to them as this male-female thing because there's a fight scene and that's kind of what scored it. So now there's a reason, and in my head it was kind of like, and it's only got to be one song. It can be a guest vocalist. It doesn't have to be your whole identity changing. So that made it okay for me. I tried one last time. I was like, can we just make the first single Going Under first and then do that? I just really was concerned that people would hear that sound, like this is the band, and expect it to always be that. And it was so just not who we were.
The fact that Amy at least was open to the idea of obviously, coming to terms with the label, they both had to settle, right? And she goes, all right, if it's just one song, but that just goes to the fact that she is a businesswoman, right? And I want to reinforce this, that in order to be successful in the music business, you have to think like a business person. And sometimes you have to make concessions, but it should never be that you're completely changing your brand, your identity, your entire presentation of what you want to do as an artist. But it is okay to make small concessions. And in this case, it was to have a male singer on one of her songs because it was going to be placed in a film. And because the label was coming back and saying, okay, we'll play ball, just do this one song, and then we'll go ahead and, let you do what you want to do.
I hate that. I hate it when you hear a first single from a band and you think they're one thing, and then you hear the rest of the album and it's like, oh, that's not what I thought this was. You just did that to like get me in, and then you tricked me.
And that is a great point. And in fact, it's funny because this particular song that she's talking about was a point of conversation between my music producer, and he's also the show producer. He goes by that, Orko for Top Music Attorney. So when it comes to the first song that Evanescence released, which is Bring Me to Life, because he worked at a independent record store, back in the day, especially when record stores were the place that you got your music from, he had such a bad taste in his mouth about the song because he felt like it was so contrived. It was so trying to be Linkin Park. It was so trying to be commercial that it almost felt like a sellout. And then plus he just didn't even like the guy's part in general. And so it took him many years after that to get back into liking Evanescence in general. And so to Amy's point of, well, I'm scared that someone's going to hear this and think that this is just all that we're going to do. I mean, obviously that was true to a degree, but for the mass majority of everyone else, they ended up loving Evanescence in general. They loved what came after it, and Evanescence was incredibly successful. But that's an interesting point when it comes to your branding and what you put out first as an artist.
But I loved the song, and Paul was really sweet, and it took some sacrifice for him to be a guest vocalist on that song that he didn't realize because it skyrocketed in a way that sort of overshadowed what he was trying to do.
Yeah, and she's underselling that. So again, that Orko, when he worked at the record store, I remember him telling me that, Ryan's album with his band, 12 Stones, really was having a difficult time selling. And they had so many units of CDs and they ended up giving them away and selling them for just dollars. And, that must have been incredibly difficult to have your project kind of flop, but then to have something go so monumentally viral and to be so successful at the same time. And maybe you could look at it in one respect, Amy's nervous about, well, I don't want to be kind of branded as this thing. And then it backfired in another way for Ryan because now he's branded and everyone just wants to hear him singing with Amy. And that was never what it was supposed to be. It was really meant to be just this one song.
So I feel for him and I don't always want to talk about it. I love him. It was just, we were just kids in a crazy moment in time. A moment for me that was a real defining moment for us was when we released our second single. And Going Under came out and people heard it and it made it on the radio too. And we were still there and people still...
It's funny. I'm like looking at that cover and I get this feeling as a fan. I love the cover. I loved her hair. I loved everything about the picture. The song was incredible. The video was incredible.
Got it. And to me, it was just this wave of relief of like, okay. It's all going to be fine. They understand, on a deeper level, kind of what the band is and what we're trying to sound like and everything. And it was all gravy after that. But it was hard at the time. Definitely the fact that had to be about a guy coming in and saving the day, because I already felt like part of the image was like, I'm up front singing, backed up by all the guys who are probably doing all the real work, which wasn't the deal either.
Well, and I think Amy did this incredible job as she started to progressed through her career, including with Everybody's Fool, and the visuals and the commentary of the lyrics, and just saying that I'm not like some of these pop stars. Not that there's anything wrong with pop stars or pop music, but Amy really tried to set herself apart, and I felt like she was a very strong front woman for the band, and I never had this assumption that there was someone behind the scenes pulling the strings. I got the impression that she was writing her music and being part of the production and being really the leader in the group. And I felt like she became almost like a Trent Reznor from Nine Inch Nails on just being a role model or a mirror for an alternative crowd, and especially women who maybe didn't dress like what you saw from the pop stars. And I loved what Amy would wear in her live shows. She'd be wearing, a big skirt over pants. And so I think what Amy did within kind of the rock community and for front-led female bands is something that created a lot of room for additional female-led bands that came after her. And Amy did end up crossing over into the mainstream in a fantastic way, in a sexy way, an empowered way. I just love Amy.
So it was a little bit hard, but I definitely, and it did take time to get past the moment, but I know that we got past the moment. So I don't have to look back and feel shame about it. I feel a lot of pride.
If you guys are fans of Evanescence, be sure to drop some recommendations down below if you want me to react to any particular music videos or other videos that you've seen. And we heard Amy talk about some issues that she ran into with her label. That was definitely not the whole story. That was only a piece of it, but it comes down to the contract and staying legally protected. And I don't know if Amy had an attorney, but I hope she did. And I hope that she got the help that she needed. But the reality is that for a lot of independent artists, they don't have anyone helping them. They don't have attorneys. And so that's the purpose of this YouTube channel. It's the purpose of why I started Top Music Attorney School. If you need help with your music career, please visit topmusicattorney.com. I have free courses, I have books, and all kinds of stuff so that you can learn how to stay legally protected. If you guys are interested in checking out a little of what I'm up to in the dark pop realm, just search Miss Crystal on all music platforms. Like I said, I did a cover recently and it was of Call Me When You're Sober by Evanescence. Don't forget to come say hi on social media. I'm on all social media platforms at Top Music Attorney. If you haven't, be sure to subscribe, turn on this bell notification so you don't miss any videos from your new favorite Top Music Attorney. I'll see you guys on the next one. I'm Miss Crystal.